Hello? Oh, hello, good morning. All right, so I'll be doing the scripture reading today. Today's reading is from True Mother, Hakja Han-moon, and Anthology, 2, Part 2, Chapter 7, The Path of Life for All Humankind. The creation of humankind involved the cooperation of many beings and elements. Although each had its own inherent purpose, they worked together to initiate the creative process. God's purpose in creating, the angel's purpose in assisting, nature's purpose in providing the materials, and even the human purpose of being created are all consistent. There is a common purpose that is pleasing to God, to the angels, to the rest of the creation, and to human beings themselves. This shared purpose is something that, longer it is possessed, the greater the happiness and joy it provides. It is something that once we possess it, we would never let it go. It cannot be external in nature. It is something internal and invisible. What then is a common content or purpose? It is something we cannot arise as though through human effort alone. This is because human effort cannot control the fundamental origin of life. This content is something that directs the motivation, course, and even final destination of each person's life. From this perspective, this common content can only be true love. Human beings are born in love and are designed to go to the path of love. Continuing, Divine Principle, Chapter 1, Section 4, Original Value, on page 46. The value of an entity intended at its creation is not fixed as an inherent attribute. Rather, it is established through the material relationship between the purpose of the entity according to God's ideal creation and people's original desire to treasure it and bring out its true worth. It finds its true value when it participates as an object partner in God-centered forward position foundation by relating it with the person through give-and-take action and by their union becoming the third object partner to God, Aju.
And we can take it either two ways. We can think of it as God's life is precious, or that the life that God brought into this world is precious. And I want to talk on the second point, that the life that God brought into this world, which is all of us, is very precious. So, yes, it's been 2 years since I gave my last sermon, so I'm still very nervous. And the only thing that kind of changed is the color of my tie, and also the fact that I won't be talking about my mom's bento boxes and what's inside of it, the shishamos. To start off, I want to once again read this last two paragraphs of True Mother's, the Hyundai reading from True Mother's Anthology. If you can take out your brochure and read along, it's right up in there. The last two paragraphs. What then is this common content or purpose? It is something we cannot arrive at through human effort alone. This is because human effort cannot control the fundamental origin of life. This content is something that directs the motivation, course, and even final destination of each person's life. From this perspective, this common content can only be true love. Human beings are born in love and are destined to go the path of love. So true love. Everybody loves true love. Everyone loves receiving it. But what about giving? Yes, Uncle Bruce, yes. But as much as Uncle Bruce loves to give true love, it's not always easy. Because we hear from true parents, what true love really is an unconditional love. Or a love that you give, and then you forget that you have given, and you keep on giving. So you just keep giving and giving. And also, when I think about true love or unconditional love, the first immediate thought would be, or the people that practice it are parents. And I can guarantee if I ask all the parents in the world and I ask them, is parenting easy? Then I think they will say no. If they say yes, then I want you to be my mentor so I can be able to understand how to parent easy. But the reason why it's so difficult or challenging to be a parent is because they practice that unconditional love for their child and children. And no matter what age, when they're infants just being born into this world, they need the love from their parents and the care from the parents, otherwise they cannot survive. And then when they grow a little bit older into like infant toddler years, they just run around. And the parents always have to care for them. Once they become a little older, middle school, high schoolers, they become a little bit rebellious and run around even more. And then once they reach the age of adulthood, they have their independence, or for some families, the parental relationship with their child can be a little distant and difficult. But even through all that circumstances, I know that parents continually love and invest into their children, no matter how difficult it can get. And we even know and hear maybe stories or news that people even put their lives on the line for love. They would be willing to risk their life for a loved one. So, yes, why do people act this way in this really pulling teeth or just really expanding your heart kind of type of actions? And that's all because there's someone that the other person really cares for, the other person really loves or is precious to them in their life. So the investment and all the sacrifices that people make for the sake of the other person is never wasted, and is always comes back to them in so much more. So then the best examples that we have of people or beings practicing this are God, true parents, our older brother Jesus, and many of the saints and martyrs who came before us. And I want to just go through God first. So when we know about God, even after Adam and Eve had fell away from God, God never gave up on humanity. There was a Hyundai that I read from True Parents earlier. It was saying how building a completely new building or structure is much more easier than fixing something that's already broken. So it would have been easy for God to just abandon Adam and Eve after they fell and to maybe create a new Adam and Eve, or with different names. But God never gave up on Adam and Eve because Adam and Eve were precious in God's eyes, even if they fell. But not only Adam and Eve, even the descendants, the future descendants that Adam and Eve were to bring about into this world, which is us and the rest of the world. God didn't know who we exactly would be, but even before we were conceived in our mother's womb, God already had a plan. You know what? This is my precious son or daughter, and I want to love him, so I'm going to continue, have hope, and invest into all of humanity. Because God wants us to be able to experience that kingdom of heaven here on earth, the best lifestyle that we can live, even if it means to go through the unimaginable heartache throughout the course of human history, the 6,000 biblical years of human history. And then so let's look at true parents now. So true parents, they have inherited God's heart to the fullest by becoming the parent of all humankind. And they love God. That's one reason why they continue to invest into the work that they do in trying to build the Cheoneo-guk with the brothers and sisters, because they love God and they love us. So they just absolutely want to comfort God's heart, and also they believe and they know that we are also God's precious children. So by being able to bring us out of this satanic world, true parents know that as a result of that, our Heavenly Parent his heart will also be healed. And so true parents want all humanity to live through the kingdom of heaven on earth, even though if they have to undergo incredible persecution in their lifetime. And that's what they're willing to risk to create that kingdom of heaven. And even our older brother Jesus, he literally died for all of humanity. And by going on the cross, anyone who believes in him were able to receive that spiritual salvation. And so Jesus willingly gave up his life, but not only did he just give his life, he even went a step further in making sure that absolutely no hate is left in this world from him by even forgiving the enemies that killed him. Remember, we all know Jesus said, "Father, please forgive them, for they not know what they do," because Jesus really understood God's heart too. And he also really saw the brothers or the people back then as his precious brothers and sisters and precious sons and daughters of God. So then, naturally, in order for someone to give, we understand there needs to be someone to receive that gift. And God wanted to give Adam and Eve his love. To put it simply, God just absolutely wanted to give Adam and Eve, and also all of us, his love. And God endowed Adam and Eve with a portion of responsibility to receive that love. Of course, God can give all that he can, but he can't do the receiving for the other. So that's why through the portion of responsibility that we have, we can receive that love and even recognize that the value of the blessings that God has been giving to us. So we know that God had explained and told Adam and Eve, "Do not eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil." And so I just want to quickly read the hymn came from the Divine Principle. This is not on the pamphlet, just saying. So here it goes. So this is about the section of original value. So the value of an entity intended at its creation is not fixed as an inherent attribute. Rather, it is established through the mutual relationship between the purpose of the entity according to God's ideal creation and people's original desire to treasure it and bring out its true worth. It finds its true value when it participates as an object partner in a God-centered four-position foundation by relating with a person through give-and-take action and by their union becoming the third object partner to God. So now, that's a lot to take in, but I want to explain on that. So the command that God gave to Adam and Eve, "Do not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil." One may misunderstand these words as a restriction, as something like, oh, God said this because they didn't want Adam and Eve to involve in that physically pleasurable act. When naturally, for procreation, it should be something that all creation should go through. But God is restricting Adam and Eve. Some may misunderstand that. But what if Adam and Eve were able to recognize God's words as a step and achieve the first great blessing? And then naturally leading up to the second great blessing, and then the third great blessing, eventually living the best life possible, imaginable, ever. Then if Adam and Eve recognized that and understood that point, I think, and I'm most certainly sure, that they would have had a much stronger defense against, Eve would have had a much stronger defense against the temptations of Lucifer. And maybe even between Adam and Eve, they would have had a much clearer understanding of, oh, this is why God told us not to do this, because he loves us and he has a plan. By going through the first blessing, second blessing, and the third blessing, we can live the best life imaginable. So, from the Divine Principle, it was talking about how value can be determined through the four-position foundation. And so this is what I want to just demonstrate a little bit. So there was God. Of course, God's always at the top, at the center of the four-position foundation. And the subject position was God's word. God's word of do not eat of the fruit. And then there was Adam and Eve. So when Adam and Eve, with their responsibility of recognizing, understanding God's words to much more deeper, in depth, then the result would have been a mature Adam and Eve, or an Adam and Eve that have fulfilled the first great blessing. And even in a more simple example like a knife and a small child. No parent would ever hand a very dangerous knife to a little child because they don't know what the purpose of this knife is, and they might wave it around and hurt themselves and even hurt other people. So then that's why the parents would say, you cannot have that knife. You are not allowed to touch that knife. But then when we look at it from the four-position foundation, again, there's God, and then there's the parent's word of don't touch the knife, and then there's the child in understanding and maturing on their own by having a give and take and understanding, recognizing what the parents are trying to convey. And then the result is that the child is healthy and everyone is not hurt. And always behind the word, the intention of the word is love. Because the parents care for the child. Because God really cares for Adam and Eve. That's why he said the commandment. And even in my own life, I know definitely I am loved by my parents. And the reason is because I don't know how many other families are also in this same, scenario or situation. But so yes, today I've just turned 24, which means it marks my full 24 years of being on this earth. But even after being 24, whenever I have the opportunity to step out of my house, my parents would ask me 6 questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who are you going with? Where are you going? Why are you going? How are you going? When are you going or coming back home? And why? And, sometimes, I'm 24, and I'm like, come on, Dad and Mom, I can take care of myself sometimes, and you don't have to worry. You want to know where I'm going? It's all church-related stuff. You want to know who I'm hanging out with? Church friends. And and how am I going to get there? Yes, they can drive. I can't drive, but they can drive. But also, I have a bus pass, and I can always take public transportation, so you don't have to worry about that. And sometimes, honestly, it can get a little annoying, or I can step back from my parents a little bit from all these questions, because sometimes it just doesn't happen once, but multiple times for that same occasion. So, but it's important for me to recognize that actually these questions that my parents are asking is because they care for me and that they love me. They want me to be safe. And actually, not even that, they even go a step further and they look for ways to help me out. Not yesterday, but last Saturday, I went up to Belvedere because there was a spring festival. And this is an event where a lot of youth members from all over the Subregion 1 gathered to Belvedere, and we had a lot of sports and games and such. And then when I told my parents about it, my mom was like, one of the questions she asked was like, okay, how are you going to get there? And I was like, well, I'm not exactly sure yet, but I'll probably find a friend to go. And the result was I did have a friend to drive me, and so it was okay. But before that conclusion happened, my mom was like, oh, you don't know? Okay, well, talk to Dad. He might be able to drive you. And then immediately my parents talked, and then my dad was like, oh, Yasu, so I heard you're going up to Belvedere this Saturday. So I had plans to do work on Saturday morning, but if you need me, I can take you. And I'm like, what? You have work, but you're willing to take me just to play around and have fun? It's I felt love through that. Not just through my father's willingness to do something for me, to take me to Belvedere, but also my mom taking the initiative in communicating with my dad and thinking how to get me up there. And so, yes, again, my parents' intention was all out of love because they want the best for me. So then let's take a look with True Mother. So we now understand that True Mother has given us the responsibility to become Heavenly Tribal Messiahs. So it's really awesome that I'm able to be in this community where we have more than 10, I don't know the exact number, but at least more than 10 families who have completed their Heavenly Tribal Messiahship. And it's really inspiring. But also, we cannot just receive Mother's words and just leave it as it is. We, as an individual, it's important for us to recognize the values of True Mother's words and own it ourselves. So I'm pretty sure that when we have God in the center, True Mother's words in giving us the responsibility, and then us, when we're able to have that give and take relationship, the result is a Heavenly Tribal Messiah. But if I ask each and every Heavenly Tribal Messiah, I'm pretty sure everyone didn't do the same exact way of achieving that goal. Even if it looks the same for the most part, there must have been something that was different, and that's because we are all individually unique too. And by each and every person recognizing and having that give and take with True Mother's words, this is where the creativeness can come out and be born. And there's infinite amount of ways where we can achieve that. And this is what also God is having a lot of fun watching from the top, because He's seeing that His children abiding by True Mother's words and getting creative on how to bless and give and share the love of God to so many people will bring them to the status of being a Heavenly Tribal Messiah. And so we really have to own it. Just because one couple or one family was doing one way and you tried it out and it's not working out for you, we cannot give up, because we have to really own it and recognize what is True Mother really saying to me, or what is God trying to speak to us through True Mother, asking us to fulfill a responsibility. And for me, I'm not blessed yet, but I am someone who is very looking forward to the blessing in the future. And so what I was able to come up with so far on my own, in at least supporting my family of becoming a Heavenly Tribal Messiah, is that I want to instill hope about other people's future marriages by explaining to them what the true value of the blessing is. Because there's so much difficulties in terms of keeping marriages together in this country. So if I can teach them or tell them about the blessing and let them know that it's something that really brings the husband and wife together, then I want to give them the hope for anyone getting remarried or getting into marriage, that the blessing is something that they want and that God is in the center of all that. So then why? So then again, why did True Mother ask us to be Heavenly Tribal Messiahs and give us this responsibility? I like to share 3 points. One, of course, because True Mother and True Father, true parents, want to connect the whole world back to God's lineage through the blessing. We all understand that through the blessing, we're able to uproot our original sin and come back to God's lineage. And secondly, True Mother wants each and every one of us, going through the struggles of raising a spiritual child, a spiritual son or daughter, knows that our spirit and also our character is going to grow as well. And as someone who's involved with NJT CARP, and also Montclair CARP started recently to witness to students on campus. And I'm pretty sure many of you know, whoever has a spiritual children, it's really difficult to raise someone up, or even just children, right? And also to your own spiritual parents, maybe you're the mischievous one giving so much trouble to them. And it's not an easy road to be involved in this kind of activity of giving the blessing or witnessing and sharing the blessing to other people, or just to sharing the fact that God and true parents are here. But True Mother understands by going through these hardships, we can naturally grow our own character and become more mature. And then the third point, why True Mother asks us to do all of this is, again, the root is love. If true parents didn't love the world, she would never ask other people to share the blessing. If True Mother really didn't think about our well-being spiritually, and then she would never ask us to give out the blessing. And sometimes, even the biggest blessing to another person could just be that simple gesture that you do to show that you care. Because when you show that you care, and when you show that you are thinking about the other person, they feel, oh, I am precious to this person, or I mean something to this person. And they would naturally want to get to be more friends with you, get to know you better, and then you can teach them about the blessing and witness to them. So yes, it's very important that we understand that each and every one of us are precious sons and daughters to our Heavenly Parent. And we have to recognize each and every day that God is pouring so much love as a parent to us too. But we have to be the one to recognize that. We have to take that step. We have to be able to go out of our comfort zone to be able to grasp the love that God is giving to us abundantly. And what's also very important, not just to recognize, but also to be grateful for it. Because when we recognize it, then we're just receiving. But then once we're grateful for the love that we received, naturally we feel like, oh, I want to give back. I want to give back 2 times, 5 times, 10 times fold the love that I received to the person who gave me the love. And so gratitude, yes, makes it natural for us to give back. And when we do give back and give an offering out of our own accord, that brings so much joy to God. Because God just pours out His love, and He sees that the kids, whether are playing with His love and are so happy with His love, but then recognizes, oh, this love came from my parent. I will also want to share my love to them. And when we play that catchball and throw our love back to God, then before God catches it, the love just expands and grows, and God just gets completely squished underneath. Like, oh, this is so great. This is all the love my children are giving me. So yes. So in conclusion, I just really want to express the point that we cannot forget how precious each and every one of us are in the eyes of God. And that it is our responsibility that we are to recognize the love that God gives us and to be grateful for it so that we can give back to God, but also to be able to expand to the rest of the world. And true parents have been saying that it is the age of the settlement, where I believe that this is the time where we should focus on chapter 1, creation, the purpose of creation, and build beautiful, amazing, exemplary families, starting with our family, and then to be able to share that blessing on how to do so with the rest of our brothers and sisters around the world. So yes, let us recognize even the smallest things, the love that we receive from God, from our parents, from our brothers and sisters, and learn and be able to digest it and to give back to the rest of the world. Thank you.